Greetings everyone. Welcome to this presentation. My name is Nicholas Gromick and I'm Senior Lecturer at Charles Darwin University in the Northern Territory. Today I will be talking about a research that I conducted a year ago about Filipino undergraduate students' acceptance of technology. And it's the data is leaning towards a particular angle of the use of technology to see if students are prepared for a more virtual reality kind of environment. And this is the data that I'm going to present today. So first we're looking at a brief outline of the presentation, which is the workshop delivery, technology acceptance, and SimLab experiment. So first of all, we need to look at the technology acceptance model, which was developed by Davis in 1984. And as you can see on the PowerPoint here, we came up with a set of variables, which are external variables, but really focusing on the perceived ease of use and the perceived usefulness. Basically, it's saying that if individuals perceive a tool or technology to be useful, they will accept it. If they don't see it as useful, they will reject it. Okay, and if they see it, if they perceive that technology to be easy to use, all right, then they will adopt it and they will use it. So if I'm looking at my cell phone, for example, if it's easy to use, I will keep it and I will continue to use it. And the apps that I select on my phones is the same. I basically select everything that goes on this phone, and if it's easy to use, I will continue to use it. If it uses too much RAM, if it uses too much memory on my phone, if it slows down my phone, I'm going to reject it. Okay, so we go through the selection process, and that's what it's looking at here. It creates an attitude towards using a particular device. And then it creates, then the two connected with attitudes explain the behavior of acceptance, okay, or the intention of use. And then finally, we have the actual system use, which is we embrace it and use it, so we feel comfortable with it. So TAM has an obvious problem because more recently, we can add more variables to really understand or pin down the impact of, for example, language background on the acceptance of certain English apps as opposed to local language apps. Okay, fair enough. But the thing is, we know students from the age of 5 have a cell phone or an iPad controlled by their parents, monitored by their parents, and so they've already accepted the technology. There's nothing to evaluate there, and whether it's in their local tongue or their mother tongue, or whether it is in English, they will still use it. All right. So there's a different relationship to technology. So the new question becomes, to what extent does a participant accept the technology impact on their technology use effectiveness? So now it's like they've accepted the technology, but how good are they with it? How comfortable are they with it? And based on that, are they more adventurous in the types of technology that they will use? So I conducted a survey question based on the technology acceptance model with 133 students and 47 male, 47 males and 86 female participants, and 83 were aged between 18 and 19, and 50 aged between 20 and 24. All right, so this was a teacher training university, and this is the evidence that we have. Okay, so this is the background of information or the background of studies that they're completing. So it's education elementary, education secondary, education major Filipino, and education general. Okay, plus other subjects. So the evidence that the pool of cohorts, so the sample size, is quite acceptable, and even though I wanted to focus on education, students from other background or other fields of studies, such as accounting, actually completed the survey. So there was a bit of a control over the cohort and the sample size and the type of background. But however, we welcomed every student that wanted to answer the survey. All right, and so it makes this survey a little bit more reliable as to the students' acceptance of technology rather than saying education students. All right, so this is the technology overview that we're looking at here. This is the data that we're looking at. And we can see, for example, that the technology skills with mobile phones is very skills with 66%. Okay, that's what we would expect today. We would expect that every child, every student that has access to a mobile phone should be confident or very skilled at using it. Okay, and then 31% of the students thought that they were skilled. So that's 97% of the population that we looked at, okay, is confident, is skilled. We determine that they're skills in using their mobile phone. So we could look at the rest of the evidence, but I will leave this on YouTube for you to look at. When we come up to the last table, which is technology skills, mixed reality environments, then somewhat skilled. We're not talking about very skilled here. We are now looking at somewhat skills, 29%, and not really skilled, 74%. Okay, so now we can see that there's a shift in society as to how we want to use technology or how technology will start to evolve. We can see that that's what's happening in the future. How ready are we with it? Because we now have access to virtual reality. We now have access to augmented reality, not on a very large scale, but it's still available. And now we need to understand how the students will transcend or transfer to that, towards that technology, right? And there's not a great acceptance of it. So if we look at the technology acceptance results, okay, if we look at the subjective norms, which is, I think parents want teachers to use digital technology in teaching, for example, the mean is 2.05, which is fairly reasonable. Okay, it's fairly in line. Okay, if we look at image, teachers who use digital technology have a high profile. The students are in agreement again at 1.31, which is 1 being yes and 5 being no. And then we're looking at perceived usefulness. Yes, we're starting with by using digital technology in my teaching duties, I can improve the quality of what I have learned, or that I deliver, which is 1.32. And again, it's fairly stable towards 1. And even for accountancy students, this is what they're reporting. Remember, they're in the data. And then perceived of use, which is around 1.3. And perceived of use is the digital technology available in my teacher training does not require a lot of effort to use, which means that if we require the students to use the technology in their classroom, they will know, for example, how to use a whiteboard potentially. They will know how to use a computer. They will feel comfortable with a computer. They will feel comfortable with a cell phone, and that kind of technology and peripherals. So that's all very good. However, if we look at the behavioral intention, it's not 1.31 or 1.30, it's actually 1.33. So there is a slight, very slight, but not significant difference between the students with their behavior. So I intend to use digital technology application in my teaching. So what we're trying to see here is like, if you feel confident using new technology in your daily life, then you should feel confident using technology in your teaching. And so these students haven't really reflected on that, and so that's why we have a slight increase in non-acceptance, because they haven't reflected on it. It's nothing major, it's towards 1 again, but there's a slight difference here. Not very complete, but interesting. So the conclusion, what can we conclude with this data? Well, students are familiar with some technology and not of others. Okay, we've harvested that, we looked at that, and they are, like we said, with virtual reality, with augmented reality, they're not very confident with it at all. Okay, so if we look at the data, we can see that technology skills, design and manage online e-portfolios such as Wix and Weebly, 3.11%, 3.1 mean. Okay, which means that they're not confident with it. It's more towards 0. It's past the neutral. It's going towards 5. Sorry, it's they're fast neutral. They're either not so confident, or very not confident. Okay, and then which is surprising because we're talking about Weebs. We're talking about Weebly and Wix, which are freely accessible blogs. So that's a skill or an area that students need to develop, because they could use that technology for their teaching. Okay, like documenting their teaching, or storing, cataloging their resources. They could do that. And then technology skills, mixed reality environments, 3.96. So if we are going towards a virtual reality kind of environment, augmented reality, if teachers are going to introduce that kind of technology in the classroom, well, they need to be comfortable with it. And at this stage, the students are saying that the mean is 3.96, which is closer to 5, which means no, they're not very skilled at all. So that's an area that we need to develop in our teaching programs. We need to offer students the opportunities to explore virtual reality, to explore augmented reality from a teaching perspective. Okay. The task skills mean is 2.52, which is acceptable. 2.52 is close to 3, but it's more like saying we're skilled. Okay, task skills, we're skilled. All right. The standard average is 1.86, which is good. The norm, sorry, the perceived usefulness is 1.6, which is acceptable. Perceived ease of use is 2.66, which means that students are having some challenges with certain types of technologies and using it. Okay, so that's an area where we need to train, if I can use this word, or expose educators, okay, to train pre-service teachers to train in the use of technology, so that their perceived ease of use is increased, so that they feel comfortable with that particular device or various technologies that they are exposed to. Okay, so the behavioral intent is 1.63, and that's slightly different again to 1.3 when we started this presentation. Okay, so again, it's still more closer to skilled, but not very skilled. So what we need to do is we really need to increase students' exposure and experiences, and trial and use of augmented reality, virtual reality, and other devices that the students are not familiar with. Because in the future, once they become teachers, they will need to access that technology. So they need to maximize their understanding and appreciation of the technology. Thank you very much for watching. And if we meet online through this conference, I look forward to your questions, your observations, your comments, because I would like to learn more, obviously, about students, undergraduate students in the Philippines, at various universities. So I'm open to further research in all universities. So I look forward to establishing partnership if that's possible, and I thank you very much for watching this presentation.